And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today I'm taking a look at AD 30. Now this is very strange, and for me, one of the reasons why is because this is a solitaire game, and I almost never review those, and if you have one, please don't send it to me. The reason I took a look at this one was because of the theme itself. I am a youth pastor. I was a pastor for several years, and so the idea of Jesus and his life and ministry is something that certainly interested me. And so this is, when I played it, it actually feels like a cooperative game. I guess that's how solitaire games work, just with one person. Let me show you how it plays. As with most victory point games, you can either use a puzzly board that fits together with puzzle pieces, and that's a thick cardboard, or you can use a fold-out board. Whatever, not using that. Alright, well, what you're trying to do over the course of this game is accomplish a bunch of things to get victory conditions. Essentially, you need to get Jesus to Jerusalem while also getting Judas to Jerusalem at about the same time, and then have one of these leaders come down. If any of those things happen kind of out of order, mostly if a leader comes down before Jesus gets to Jerusalem, then there will be different ways that you can win or lose. So, the way the game plays is at the beginning of each turn, you turn a card over. And this card will show one or more leaders. This shows Pilate. So Pilate moves down one on his track. Remember, if any of them gets all the way down to Jerusalem, then that pretty much ends the game. Or at least it will end the game if they're still in Jerusalem at the end of the turn. This also shows how many actions you have. It has a verse on it too, and sign of Jonah. But this gives you 4 actions that you can take. Sometimes these cards will show multiple people. Sometimes they will move Judas. If Judas is on the board, then he will move on a special Judas track. And they will give you actions. Sometimes they will give you no actions, like this entry into Jerusalem. This is the very last card. The game will end when you get to that one. They also have a foot on it. If there's a foot on it, that means at the end of the turn, Jesus is going to move one space closer towards Jerusalem. Now, when you're taking actions, there's different actions that you can take. One of the actions is recruiting disciples. You can turn over a couple tiles and look at them. Now, if they're followers, like these 2 tiles are, those are kind of worthless over the course of the game. You're trying to get disciples. And if Jesus is teaching at the very beginning, at the River Jordan, he can teach. He can just take them for free. Other than that, you're going to have to roll a die. When you get disciples, you will put them up here into the apostles area, and later on for an action you can move one of these apostles or disciples onto one of these leaders, and so when that leader is about to move down, instead you will roll a die, and if you roll equal to or less than this number on the disciple, the leader doesn't move. If you roll over it, the leader doesn't move, but the disciple is removed, and then you roll the die again, and if you roll a 1, the disciple is dead. Okay, so there's a chance that they'll be dead forever. So that's what disciples are for. They're also basically a way of keeping track of victory points. You can also turn over 2 of these tiles here, like in a memory match game. And if you get 2 that show the same picture, some of them say no match, but here I turn over 2 that are Pilates, then I can go over here and I will flip Pilate to the other side. Right now it shows a 5. On this side it shows a 3. That's because another action that you can take is rolling a die and trying to move them up 1. You simply have to roll higher than their number, equal or higher to their number, to move them up. So you can see that Pilate at a 5 is more difficult. Once you do find a match, though, those tiles are removed, and we add in 2 no match tiles and then reshuffle everything. So it gets harder and harder to find these people. You're also trying to find Barabbas in there, a tile that you will stick into the rest in Jerusalem. So, if you try to move Jesus back, that's another action you can take, or if you try to recruit disciples outside of the River Jordan, or if you try to move the temptation piety track here, you're going to be rolling a die. Every time you fail, you'll put this token on Jesus. That means the next time you try one of those dies, you get a +1. If that also fails, then you will put an auto on him, and that means the next one automatically succeeds. The number you use for these is the 3 that's on the token where Jesus is, and depending on where piety is, he might be flipped in a 4. Of course, if piety goes all the way down to 0, which can happen especially in the desert whenever a temptation card is turned over, then you will automatically lose the game. So, once again, you're going to keep flipping over cards until eventually Jesus will get all the way over here to Jerusalem. You will find the disciple Judas. You definitely need him to come out from the disciple pile and get on his track and then move towards Jerusalem. You will need one of those leaders to come down, but you really don't have to worry about that. They're just going to come down. So that's not a problem. And then hopefully you'll have enough disciples, because at the end of the game, some disciples are worth more points than others. You'll add up all your points from that. You'll add up your points to where you are on the piety track and some other things, and then you will consult basically a chart in the book where it will tell you if this, and this happen, then you will have a defeat. Depending on where people are, you can have minor defeats and major defeats, and defeats and victories and major victories and minor victories. There's all different ways to do it. So that's kind of in a nutshell how the game is played. Okay, I need to be honest and frank here. I don't often talk about this in my videos, but let me say this. I am somebody who believes that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I am a Christian. I am a wholehearted Christian, and so I have to take that into account when I play this game. So when looking at the theme of this game, it really kind of bothers me because for a couple reasons, thematically. One, I basically am Jesus in this game, and I am uncomfortable with that. I am uncomfortable with either being Jesus or controlling Jesus. If Jesus was someone in the game who moved around and did things and I had no control over him, I would feel better in that regard. So that was a little off-putting for me, but more so was the fact that you can lose. Now, granted, it wouldn't be much of a game if you could lose, but I don't like the ways you can lose. I don't like the fact that, for example, Jesus can succumb to temptation, because according to my beliefs, he could not have done that. I don't believe that Jesus was just a historical figure, and that's what several of the scenarios will lead him to be, just a historical figure. So you need to take that into account. Those are my thoughts in the game, and why, for me, I don't really like the game that much. But let's divorce the theme and just take a look at the mechanics themselves. When we look at the mechanics of this game, we have to, for me, it's has that idea of a puzzly type game. The problem here is, in this game, you roll the dice a lot. You are constantly rolling the dice, whether it's to move people down, whether it's to, move people up, whether it's to move Jesus back, whether it's to bring out disciples you have to roll dice for. And if you flub up several of those rolls, you have simply lost the game. And I really feel like while the game system itself was interesting, to move the disciples here, playing a little memory match game up here, moving people around down here, and there was a lot of thematic flavor to it, with Barabbas and Judas. I didn't mind those additions in the game. It's just that when it came down to it, the game was just full on a lot of luck elements, and I really, I won the game on my very first playthrough. Sheer luck, though. I rolled a couple things when I needed to roll them, and subsequent playings, I don't feel, when I lost horribly, I don't feel like I was really playing better one time or worse another time. It all came down to just the die rolls didn't work. So it's an interesting idea, and the theme won't bother many people as much as it bothered me, but taking that away, I still don't think this is that fantastic of a game. I'm not a big fan of solitaire games anyway, but when I read through the instructions, I said, this is actually pretty intriguing. But the die rolls just constantly, yes, I know there's that +1 and then the auto success, but 2 failures, before you get to the auto success, can really doom you in this game. And it's possible that one of those guys moves down the track super fast, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. So, yeah. Kind of a really big meh for me. I'm not a real big fan of this one, but it's a good effort and a good try, AD 30.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.